Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Redneck Racing. As you can see, right now we have an engine hanging on the engine hoist and a Skylark sitting right there ready to get the engine put in. So this isn't the engine that's going in the car, we're just mocking stuff up right now, trying to get some motor mounts made for it. The actual 6-liter that's going in the car is still at my shop back home. You guys will see that entire engine build in a different video. But for right now, we're just kind of mocking stuff up, making sure the engine's going to fit in the car, make sure the transmission sits in the cross member how it should. I kind of lined up bolt holes on the transmission and the transmission mount to the transmission cross member. All that should be good. We just need to fabricate some motor mounts for this thing. Seeing as how this car used to have a big block Buick in it, I think this small block Chevy will fit just fine. I got this piece of metal from work. We were just cleaning out the shop at work, and this is a big scrap piece of steel that we got. So it's like a 3/8 inch thick chunk of steel, probably 1.5 by 1.5 feet. There should be enough there to make some motor mounts out of. But I'm thinking we're just gonna get a plate to bolt on each side of here, and then 2 plates that come off of it like this with holes drilled so that a bolt can go through. And then on this side we'll just have 2 more things that stick up here and here, drilled holes in that, and have them scooched in more so that the other brackets on the motor that are out here can just slide over top of it. And then these 2 in the middle will have to get a piece of pipe and weld in between the holes so that it can't like squish everything together. First plan of attack here though is send the motor in. There's a cross member in there already. You guys can see right there. Where's that mount, Peter? Is that on the trunk right there? Yeah. Hopefully all these bolts line up. This is a cross member mount for a 66 Skylark with the 340 small block Buick. I think the 340 was a small block. I don't know. Hopefully that means it had a turbo 400. It would have been the Buick 400, but hopefully everything still lines up. All right, everybody. We got the motor kind of in the car. I apologize for the terrible angle here on everything, but as you can see, there's the bottom of the engine block. We have the transmission like sort of in here. I think everything needs to come down maybe a little bit more. It looks like it's pointed up a little bit more than it needs to be. Yeah, the good news is everything fits in the tranny tunnel the way it's supposed to. Like, we don't have to clearance the tunnel at all, or the firewall. We got the turbo 400 cross member in. Just hung some bolts in there. You can see there's a bolt right there, just kind of like locating like this thing where it needs to be. Just a generic Skylark cross member, transmission cross member mount, and lo and behold, the bolts went right in here. All the holes lined up. It lined up on the tail housing. The only thing I can't find is bolts with the right thread pitch. So these have the wrong thread pitch. They went in a couple turns. It's kind of just like locating the transmission where it needs to be right now.
It seems like it might be a little crowded if you try to use theirs.
Yeah. Because like it would be nice, like if we just take 2 plates like here and here, I'd need to get like a piece of pipe to put in between them. So like when you put the bolt through this way, it doesn't squish the metal, right? Mm-hmm. And then take 2 more plates like here and here on the outside with a flat piece that just runs back and bolts to the block right here. Basically the same way Peter's mounts are on his car. Alright guys, so we got the heads put on the motor, and well, it looks like we took it off, but at one point we had exhaust manifolds on here, or maybe this side still has one on. Yeah, we got an exhaust manifold on this side. We had the one on the other side, and we noticed a couple problems just width-wise. These LS motors are a little wider than a small block Chevy. Surprised it's wider than a big block Chevy, but anyways, you can see the flange where the exhaust manifold like bolts to the rest of the exhaust pipe is hitting the frame rail. I'm hoping we can just cut the ear off and then weld it together. And then on the other side it was hitting where the O2 sensor was, which that's a pretty easy fix. We just take the O2 sensor off, plug that bung, move it somewhere else, put the O2 sensor in somewhere else. The rest of the motor looks like it'll fit. We got the intake put on. We just kind of set the intake on. It looks like the intake will actually fit underneath the hood, especially with the Snortolorticus on there. Right now, what I'm going to do is pull the motor out, put an oil pan on it, and then we'll just have to get the thing centered in the car. We're pretty much going to drop it as low as we can. The angle that we had on here, so the car is sitting at, the rocker panel is at about a 5-degree angle. So yeah, the door right here is 5 degrees, 5.2 degrees, so we'll zero that out. Set it right there. We're at like 3 degrees of the motor tipped back. I'd like to set it down a little bit more, but I'm not sure if we can based on the steering rack and the oil pan. Alright, we got the motor in the car. Oh, I just kicked the string with my foot again. We got it pretty much exactly where we want it to be. It's basically level. I don't know, last time I turned that on it said 0, 0, so I don't know. Time before that it said 0.5. It seems to be pretty much exactly centered in the car. Those two little things right there are not centered. There's a hole in the frame underneath there that I'm pretty sure is centered. And if I line up the string, well, when it was still before, I could line up the string with that hole, with that bolt, and everything was in line. So I'm pretty sure that means it's in line with the center of the car. And that should also mean it's pretty straight, even though that says it's not. I think the motor's where it needs to be. So now, we've gone ahead and done some CAD work right here, cardboard aided design, not computer aided design. So there's our plate on the motor, and then these two guys, I think we'll just have, one here and one here, and then get two more like here and here, and run a bolt through everything. Okay, we got the cardboard motor mounts done. I think they turned out pretty good. I don't even know if we need to make ones out of metal at this point, but I don't know. I suppose we'll go through that bother. I think the cardboard ones would hold up just fine, but yeah, that's basically the procedure that we're gonna use to make these motor mounts. Just build them out of cardboard first and then put the metal in. We got some gussets hot glued in there. When we actually go to make them out of metal, we're gonna have to putz with some stuff a little bit differently because the metal is a lot thicker than the cardboard. But I think we're basically just gonna use the same procedure to make the metal ones. We'll probably trace the big plate onto the steel, cut it out, and then trace the, these pieces right here and here out of steel. And then at that point, when we get to making these two bottom pieces, we'll have to finagle some stuff a little bit. Okay, so it's going to be a little loud in here for the duration of today's filming because we got two of these heaters running in here because it's like -10 or something outside. The wind chill's like -20. It's probably about 0 in here right now.
This morning it said it was -38 wind chill.
Yeah.
So it's cold.
It's just a little bit cold. It's gonna be loud in here. Sorry. We gotta stay warm. So we're at the point now where we're going to start turning the cardboard into metal, basically. I'm just going to cut this thing apart so that I can get at these pieces that I hot glued on, and then just basically cut everything out of the metal. So we're just going to do one of these, what do they call, like filming magic deals, where I snap my finger and the cardboard turns into metal. So we're going to try one of those. And there we go. She's all done up, made out of metal. So this is actually the one for the passenger side. The one for the driver's side is already kind of put up in here. Now all we have left to do is take this piece of metal right here and line it up in there, and then just weld. I've got another piece like that made. We'll just weld both of them to the frame and then weld a piece of pipe in between the both holes, and then pretty much the whole thing's gonna be done. Alright, we're calling her quits for tonight. We got everything kind of mocked up and tacked in place. The mounts on the motor side are fully welded. We just have to finish welding the plates onto the frame of the car, and I think the only other thing we have to do is get the right size bolts for the transmission cross member, or to put the transmission mount up into the tail housing of the transmission. But motor mounts are done. That side is a little tight. This side, as we did second, and like everything, you kind of learn from your mistakes. And this one goes together better than a factory motor mount, I think. That side's about as good as a factory motor mount, so we got everything kind of squared away in the car. What's our final angle at? 0.2, 0.15. So she's tipped a little bit this way, but 1/10 of a degree isn't bad at all. So we're gonna call that good. It's centered in the motor. We're at about 5 degrees this way. But I figure once there's bigger tires on the back, that'll come back to right around 2 or 3 degrees, which is probably a little bit better. And then yeah, we just kind of got to line the drive shaft up, and I think we're gonna have to move the diff up one hole to get the drive line angle correct. That's probably a better spot to have it anyways. Alright, next step is taking the motor out so we can weld the plates on. I think I want to probably tack a piece of pipe in there first to hold them where they're supposed to be. Otherwise, depending on how I weld these motor mounts, they might try to bend one way or the other with the heat of the weld. So I think I'm going to tack the pipe in first, then weld it on, weld the plates down, and then weld the pipe all the way around, or just weld the pipe all the way around first. I don't know. Well, alright, the motor mounts have been welded. The MIG welder ran out of gas while I was tacking the tubes in between those two plates there, so I had to figure out how to TIG weld pretty quick. This wasn't actually my first attempt at TIG welding, obviously, because that one actually looks really good. But yeah, this is probably the first thing that I've TIG welded on a car for actually making something other than just messing around with it. Some of the stuff underneath where I couldn't see what I was doing got really, really nasty looking, but you know, it should, they're on there, I think. Alright, well, the old motor mounts are done. I will say it's probably more of a pain in the butt to get the motor in and out with these mounts, because obviously stuff isn't, you know, perfect, so to speak. It's hard getting it lined up. Like with normal motor mounts, you can just set the motor straight down and then slide the bolts right in. This one, if you set it all the way down, it's actually too low. Like, it almost seems like we should get another plate of steel and make like a little U underneath here to hold this piece up right at the right spot. Other than that, it wasn't too bad. It just took a little bit more finagling to get these holes lined up just right with the cherry picker and then shoving the bolt in. Yeah, other than that, I'm pretty happy with the whole situation here. That's going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. I really enjoyed filming it, even though we filmed this during that big Christmas blizzard of 2022 and I couldn't feel my fingers for the majority of the video. It was still an absolute blast, just being able to fabricate stuff how I wanted to make it. It's kind of like being a little kid with a brand new box of crayons and a blank sheet of paper in front of you, if you know what I mean. So be sure to subscribe to our channel, like the video, leave a comment if you got a question, and keep watching our stuff. We got a motor build video, we got fuel system, we got electrical system left to do on the Skylark, so tons of stuff coming. Make sure to keep watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.